Om Ashato Ma Sadgamaya Tamasho Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Aviravir Maidhi Rudro Yatte Dakshinang Mukham Te Namang Pahi Nityam Te Namang Pahi Nityam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to knowledge and wisdom. Lead us from death to immortality. And evermore shine in our hearts with your resplendent face. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. We are very happy that we get another chance to hear from Swami Sarvapriyananda ji. We need not have to introduce him because all of us know him so much. And many of you spend hours and hours on his thoughts and lectures and talks. And only to say that we are very happy because we get this chance to hear from him, though the ancient truth is the same, but how we can get into our life and enrich our life with the spirit of that infinite wisdom and knowledge. So that inspiration we get again and again. It is renewed experience which we get every time when he speaks from the heart. So today he will be speaking on the topic knowing and becoming, no? No.
Knowing and being.
Knowing and being. Knowing and being. And after this, he will be only very short time. He just came back today from San Francisco, Sacramento, after having programs there. And just tomorrow he will be in Santa Barbara. And then day after tomorrow he has to go back to another place. So we are very happy that he could spend this limited time with us. And I welcome him to speak on this topic. Thank you.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good evening and namaskar, everybody. My pranams to revered Swami Sarvadevanji Maharaj, pranams to the revered monks and Matajis, and namaskars to all of you, dear friends. So we are gathered again here with a very important subject. I mean, I always say it's an important subject, but this is really important because knowing and being, I think this, in Vedanta, we inevitably come to this point. This question I've heard again and again, that I now get it, I've heard the teachings, I now understand it, but there's how do I make it real? How do I embody it in my life? How do I take the, what do you call it? And Americanism is there when the rubber hits the road. Yeah. How do I walk the talk? And that's the subject, knowing and being. And the more I think about it, the more it becomes, very soon this becomes the central, the central question in our spiritual life. So that's why I think it's very important to discuss this. I'll just say what I've been thinking about in the last few days about this subject, and then we can have a little bit of Q&A depending on the time available. I know many people here and in other places have asked this very same question. It all boils down to this question of knowing and being. And they've asked this question in so many different ways, but basically it's this question. Eliot, T.S. Eliot, one of his most famous poems is The Hollow Men, not the Wasteland, The Hollow Men. And in the end of that poem, he says, between the idea and the reality falls the shadow. Between the intention and the act, between the idea and the reality, falls the shadow. Thousands of years before Eliot, in the Mahabharata, we find Krishna going to teach his, giving his teachings, his counsel. Before he did it for Arjuna, his disciple, it's the famous Bhagavad Gita. Before that, he actually goes to the villain of the piece, of the epic, Duryodhana, the evil prince, and tries to reform him and says, "Oh prince, what you are doing, it is not dharma, it is not righteous. What you are doing is adharma, it is unrighteous." And then Duryodhana's answer, it prefigures what Eliot was talking about. Duryodhana says to Krishna, "Oh Krishna, do not teach me about right and wrong." Why? Because I know what is right and I know what is wrong. And I know what I'm doing is not right. That's not my problem. I know. It's not that I do not know. I know. I understand. I understand what I'm doing is wrong. That's really honest for a villain, so-called villain, to have so much introspection. But that's the human condition. He says, I know what I'm doing is wrong. I know what is right. You don't have to teach me right and wrong. I know that. That's not my problem. Then what is your problem? My problem is, I know what's right. I don't feel like doing it. I know what's wrong. I can't stop myself from doing it. Why not? There's some force in my heart which propels me along in this way, and I'm helpless. This is the way I am. So that is the human condition. That is the gap between knowing and being. Duryodhana knows, and yet it's difficult for him to be. Again, from Mahabharata, we come back to the present age here in the United States. There is this very well-known psychologist, Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T, I don't know exactly how you pronounce it. I read one of his books, one of his early books. It's very, very well known, The Happiness Hypothesis. There he takes up this question that why is it so difficult to change? We know what we want to be, but why aren't we able to do it? We are convinced, but we aren't able to do it. He says that there's this whole huge literature now. You go to Barnes & Noble, and you see there'll be a huge self-help, positive psychology, self-improvement section. Books from all sorts of books, how to be happier, how to communicate better, how to lose weight, how to make friends, and how to focus, how to... so much. Some of it is anecdotal, some of it is, sort of homespun, but quite a bit of it, increasingly these days, is academically rigorous. There is a whole subject now called positive psychology, which deals with human strengths, not with human weaknesses, but human strengths, happiness, resilience, sociability, all sorts of things which constitute human strengths. And yet Jonathan Haidt poses this question: why is this gap between knowing and being? He poses this question. The self-help sections, if you see Barnes and Nobles, it must be one of the most popular sections, because those sections are huge, rows and rows of books, which means millions and millions of copies sell. And yet, after reading a lot of that, after getting your own self-help, self-improvement library, almost inevitably one feels a little let down. That, I know such a lot, but the improvement to my life is at most a little incremental, a little bit, not much. Why? What is this gap between knowing, you buy all the books, listen to all the talks, and then being? There's still a gap. And the more you know, the more the gap increases between knowing and being. I know so many techniques, so many ancient, the wisdom of the entire world. 5,000 years of spiritual wisdom developed mostly in India, but also in other parts of the East, has now been poured into America, and through America across the world now. It's a global phenomenon, spirituality. How much difference is it making? It's making a difference to people's lives, no doubt about it, but how much? Why are we not at all satisfied with the progress that we are making? We are not at all satisfied. We don't know if it's making a difference or not. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But as far as we can see our own lives, we don't feel satisfied. We think we ought to be much better, much further along the road than we actually find ourselves to be. So this is the problem. What is the answer? I've just situated the problem, formulated the problem. I'll just spend some time. We will think about the answer. Think about what can be done, what do the spiritual traditions suggest, and then we can discuss it a little more. So, I'll start with the highest, because there's Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. What would classical Advaita Vedantists say to this? That I know it all and I understand it all, but I am unable to embody it in my life. My life has not changed. The classical Advaitin, if you take it to a non-dual teacher, a monk in the Himalayas or a Pandit, a scholar of non-dual Vedanta, the answer would be, nope, you haven't understood it. I know a person who's studying Vedanta, and she said, her teacher is a very well respected classical non-dualist in India. So I said about meditation, how to calm my mind. And I asked my teacher, I said, keep studying Vedanta. She thought he will recommend some kind of meditation technique, do this, sit in this way, breathe in this way. Keep studying Vedanta. In revered Swamiji's room, there is a book on the table which says it all. It says, the title of the book is Knowing is Being. That is the answer from the Advaita Vedanta perspective, from the non-dual perspective. Knowing is being. This knowing and being, no. You're making a mistake. What does that mean? Again, this is again from the view from the Everest top, from the top of the spiritual ladder. It may not be practically directly relevant or useful to us right now, but it's good to know. And it's the truth, it's the ultimate truth about all of us. Even now it's the truth about us. Yeah, maybe we'll find it too metaphysical, too abstract, but still good to know, good to start there. Then we'll work our way downwards to where we are. It's like this. I remember when we were kids, we used to read these comic books. They're called Asterix and Obelix. I don't know if they're not popular in the United States, no. But in India, they were popular. So anyway, the story works well even if you haven't read the comic books. So it's set in ancient Roman times. And Asterix and Obelix are these Gauls, they're rebels, they fight against the might of the Roman Empire and so on. Anyway, the story is that some character in that, in one of those comic books, they visit their version of a therapist. That was a druid. In those days, druids were there. So there's this famous druid who cures mental illnesses. And so they're sitting there, and they find the patients going in and coming out cured. But the cures are really weird. So this person is sitting on and barking at everybody. What's wrong with him? He thinks he's a dog. And so he's called next, and the patient goes in and comes out walking straight. Wow, he's cured. Not really. He still thinks he's a dog, but he taught him how to beg. The Advaitin will say, all your efforts at self-improvement are like this. You're mad. You're just mad. You're fine-tuning your madness so that it doesn't appear so mad after all. You must first realize, the real cure is to realize that you're not a dog. You're a human being. Similarly, the real answer is to realize what we truly are. Not put, band-aids, make a little fix. I am scattered. I can't focus. I must learn how to focus. Great. I'm a loner. I must learn how to make friends. Okay. I am lazy. I must get my act together and earn $1 million. Okay. But from an Advaitic perspective, all of these are based on ignorance. These are all false moves. And the problem with these moves is none of them taken by themselves or all put together, none of them are going to bring you what you think you want. You want satisfaction, peace of mind, fulfillment. None of them will work. Get friends, be a loner or get friends. Be poor or be rich. Be distracted or be real laser sharp focused on your work. In both cases, there are problems. None of them is a deep solution to the question of life. What is a solution? The solution is enlightenment, realizing what we truly are. How will that help with the question of knowing and being? In Advaita Vedanta, knowing is being. Because the non-dualist is so different from all other kinds of religion or spirituality. And the non-dualist says that you already are perfect. In our real nature, which we do not know, if we would know ourselves as we truly are, it's already all right. Our lives seem so far away from all right that it seems ridiculous to say that to us, but Advaita insists. That's why Advaita Vedanta non-dualism is so radical. It insists it's already all right. You just don't see it. It's like watching a horror movie followed by a tragedy, followed by a documentary on war, and so on. But if you realize they are movies, that's the central thing to realize. It's not that there's good, King Kong has come and is smashing up New York, then followed by the great earthquake and California disappears into the Pacific Ocean, and then space aliens invade. All of that didn't happen. It's the screen with movies, with pictures and sound. That's the point to be realized there. Similarly, what we consider to be our life here, that is an appearance of an underlying reality, and that reality is perfect. Existence, consciousness, bliss, unlimited existence, unlimited awareness, and unlimited fulfillment. Great, but what about me, we ask. And Advaita Vedanta says, Tattvamasi, that unlimited existence, awareness, fulfillment, you are. Yeah, but I have to become enlightened first, right? That's the whole deal in Advaita Vedanta. No. Whether you become enlightened or not, you are that. Whether you meditate or not, you are that. Whether you are a billionaire or you are homeless, you are that. By the way, there is a homeless billionaire. I met him here in Hollywood. It's a distraction, but I have to tell the story. Just like this, an invitation came that we're going to launch a book about, atheistic perspective, a completely anti-religion book. It's going to be launched, and we need your parking lot. I said, look at the cheekiness of it, the chutzpah. Huh? You're asking a monastery, an ashram, a spiritual center, can we use your parking lot to launch a book saying that it's all bunk, whatever you guys teach? And we are, it's difficult to get one over us. And we said, of course you can. And not only that, I told Swami Mahayogananda, let's go and attend. We also want to attend. So I went, and the book, of course, was a very famous Celtic physicist here. It's called Sean Carroll. The book is The Big Picture. A very nice gentleman. And he gave me a copy saying, "Swami, enjoy the universe." He signed it and he gave it to me. But in the party, there was one gentleman. So the people gathered around. We had a couple of odd ducks in orange, guys in orange. People gathered around us asking questions. One gentleman was asking very probing questions. I found him very intelligent. And because he was all Caltech folks, I thought he was a professor. I thought maybe he was a professor of philosophy or maybe physics or. I asked him, "So, are you a professor?" And he said, "No." What do you do? What are you? And he said, "Oh, I'm just a homeless guy." And then later on we got talking and he gave me his name. And then I said, but what exactly do you do? And he said, "Look me up." I looked him up. He's right. He's homeless. He's the homeless billionaire. If you look him up, if you Google him, you'll find him. He had come to LA. He gave the city $500 million. So he had come for that. Okay. Whether you are homeless or you're a billionaire or you're a homeless billionaire, it still doesn't work. In any case, you are Brahman, you are that absolute reality, and it's all right. Only thing is that until we know that, it's not available to us. If we do not know that, what happens is we are whirled around in this what we call samsara, and we suffer. If we want Advaita Vedanta, our real nature, this non-dual teaching to end our suffering, then enlightenment is necessary. But note the point here. Enlightenment does not make you Brahman. This is a saying in the Upanishads, Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower of Brahman is Brahman. It means becomes Brahman. Becomes does not mean that it was not Brahman, you are not Brahman, and you become the absolute reality. No. You wear the absolute reality and you come to see it for the first time. That's all enlightenment is. And therefore, knowing is being. I mentioned last time I was here, Robert Ingersoll, the great agnostic. And he said, the only thing that we are ever sure of is this world. Robert Ingersoll told Swami Vivekananda, the only thing that we are ever sure of is this world. So I believe in squeezing the orange dry, every drop from the orange of this world. And spirituality, God, heaven, whatever you call it, who knows? So we are only sure of this. And Vivekananda's answer is instructive, and that's the Advaitic position. He says, I also believe the same thing, but I know a better way of squeezing the orange dry. How? He says, I know that I shall not die, therefore I am not in a hurry. I know there is no fear, therefore I enjoy the squeezing. I see God in everybody and love everybody. Imagine the joy of loving everybody as God. Squeeze your orange in this way and get 10,000-fold more. Get every last drop. That was Vivekananda to Ingersoll. But that's a very Advaitic way of looking at it, a non-dual way of looking at it, that you know you are that, and therefore it's perfectly all right. And we live out these little lives, there's no problem at all. Once you realize what you are, Vivekananda says in his poems, the Song of the Sannyasin, then heed no more how body lives or goes, let its task is done, let karma float it down. You suddenly realize how vast and limitless you are. And then this little body, here is the Advaitic answer to your question. Don't I have to be perfectly peaceful, perfectly happy, perfectly healthy? And let karma float it down. Heed no more than how body lives or goes. Because you are not this little creature. You have realized, right now it doesn't seem possible. But it is true, we have realized our real nature as unlimited existence. I know I cannot die. Therefore I'm not in a hurry. I know there is no fear. Therefore I enjoy life. And when death comes, it's no problem to me because I do not die. I know there's no death at all for me. He gave the example of a lion cub. Its mother died while hunting and gave birth before dying, and the cub was raised by sheep. And the lion cub grew up to think it was a big sheep. a big lamb, and it was eating grass and bleating and following its the other sheep around, until another big old lion came hunting and saw in the midst of the flock there is a young lion, and he was intrigued. So he stalked the lion and, seeing its chance, jumped upon this young lion and caught it, bleating, dragged it out of the flock, and said, "What are you doing?" So, "Oh, sir, let me go. I'm scared. You're scaring me," and bleated. "Stop, please, stop that," the old lion said. You are not sheep. You are a lion." And no, that's not true. And dragged this young lion to the pool and said, "Look at the reflection of my face and reflection of your face. You and I are the same reality. We are the same thing. Now roar." And the young lion roared. And what did that young lion have to do in order to become a lion? Nothing. It was already a lion. What did it have to do? Other than knowing that he is a lion, what else did he have to do to become a lion?
Affirm.
Why? Do what?
Act like a lion.
Suppose it doesn't act like a lion. Suppose it doesn't act like a lion. But is it not a lion? It's still a lion. It was already a lion.
Yeah. As soon as he knows that, he has become like that, right?
As soon as he knows that, he begins to act like that. His whole problem is solved when he knows that he is a lion. But the fact is that he was already a lion. He did not become a lion by some practice, doing something, except just knowing that he is a lion. That's all.
But then he had to drop his previous guard.
Sure, that comes. The previous preconceptions, the previous ways of acting, that drops up. Isn't it an automatic consequence of knowledge, of changing? The story of the prince who got lost in a royal hunt and then was lost in the forest and brought up by a poor hunter in the forest, and many years later rediscovered by the minister of the kingdom and said, "Thou art not this poor hunter's son, but you are the king, the son of the king. You are the crown prince. This kingdom belongs to you." Now, what does the prince have to do to become a prince? Nothing. Just knowing that he's a prince is enough. Knowing is being in Advaita Vedanta. In non-dual Vedanta, knowing is being. Knowing is being because you are already that. Whether you know it or not, you still are that. But knowing gives you the benefits of being that. Knowing, what does the wave have to do to become water? Nothing. So Shankaracharya says, in a very brief statement, powerful, compact statement in his commentary in the Bhagavad Gita, Jnana Jnanayoho Anyatvena Upapattehe. Everything becomes understandable, reasonable, if you see the difference between knowledge and ignorance. In ignorance, we think we are limited creatures striving for perfection. In knowledge, we see that we are already the perfect existence, consciousness, bliss. So knowing is being in Advaita Vedanta. However, even here there is a problem. The problem is this. Enlightenment has two aspects. Enlightenment has two aspects. One aspect is what I would like to call the paradigm shift. See, this I'm drawing from a paper I studied a couple of years back at Harvard University. You wouldn't think that at Harvard they're talking about enlightenment, but they are, I assure you. I was there. They were talking about it. So enlightenment, this is in the Buddhist context. So enlightenment has two aspects. One is that you have the bodhi, the wisdom, and you realize your own Buddha nature. So that's one aspect. In our Vedantic sense, I am Brahman. You are Brahman, you realize that. I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. That realization comes to us. That's one aspect, and that's what I call the paradigm shift. The paradigm shift. Shifting from the identity of body-mind to our identity as existence, consciousness, bliss. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham. I am of the nature of consciousness and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. This shift When Shankaracharya sings, Mano buddhya ahankara chittani naham. I am not the mind, I am not the ego, I am not the memory, I am not the intellect. I am not earth, water, fire, air, the materials out of which this physical body is made. I am none of them. This is what I thought till now. I was this. This is who I am. What's this? This is I. Who are you? What are you? This. What is this? It is I. What are you? I am this. This whole paradigm changes, and I realize I am the awareness, unlimited awareness. Yes, in me the awareness disappears. This is an experience of this body, of this mind. So I am this unlimited awareness, ever free of the troubles of the body. Where is aging? Body. Where is birth? Body. Where is death? Body. Where is illness and COVID? Body. Where is depression? Not in consciousness, in mind. Where is unhappiness? In the mind. Where is the sense of limitation? In the mind. Where is even this sense that how can I manifest my spiritual knowledge in this life? Where is this question coming? In the mind. Does that question come to you when you are sleeping? No. So it's the mind which has this problem. As pure consciousness, you have no problem at all. So this paradigm shift from thinking ourselves as body-mind to knowing ourselves as the witness consciousness, as unlimited awareness, this is what I call one side of enlightenment. This is the paradigm shift aspect of enlightenment. But this is the problem with the non-dual approach. There's another side. The other side is what was called in that paper the ethical manifestation aspect. See, when you say somebody is enlightened, when you say somebody has realized his or her Buddha nature, you have some expectations of such a person. You would expect that person to be selfless. We expect a person to be, all those saintly qualities which we see in the lives of enlightened people. Selflessness, fearlessness, peace, kindness and compassion for all beings, enmity towards none. Being beneficent to every sentient being in the universe, love for everybody, deep wisdom and expressed in serenity. No matter what happens in life, we expect that person to be serene. We expect that person to be happy. Unless a person has enlightenment solves your problems, how can we expect an enlightened person to solve other people's problems? So we expect that person has solved, at the very least, his or her own problems forever. So these saintly qualities, they must manifest if you are enlightened. Ethical manifestation model. So the two models of enlightenment, the paradigm shift model and the ethical manifestation model. Now, here's the question so when you bring today's subject, knowing and being. A person might claim to be enlightened. I have realized I am Brahman. Or I have had a vision of God. Who knows? We don't know. But what we do know is the person's behavior. What does that person say? How does this person deal with life? How does that person behave towards all of us? We see it and we feel it. And we expect at least a certain standard. Swami Vivekananda's definition of religion as the manifestation of the divinity already within us, I think it's a beautiful definition. Now we see the depth and profundity of this definition. Why? The word manifestation includes both these aspects. Manifestation of the divinity within myself is that I should be aware, first of all, of the divinity within myself. That's the paradigm shift. I am not the body-mind. I am Brahman. I am limitless awareness. Paradigm shift. But also, manifestation has the other meaning. It must appear in my thoughts and in my words and my deeds. So this manifestation is a very good word, which includes both of these components, the paradigm shift and the ethical manifestation. Both are. Swami Vivekananda said, my mission in life can be put in a few words. It's to preach unto humanity their inner divinity. See the paradigm shift. You are not mortal creatures. You are divine, which means you are of the essence of God. You are awareness, you are being itself. To preach unto humanity their inner divinity and how to make it manifest in every movement of life. Do you see? Knowing and being, the paradigm shift and the ethical manifestation. To realize your own inner divinity and how to make it manifest in every movement of life. So here both knowing and being are there. Let's go a little deeper into this. There is a problem here. The problem is this. In non-dual Vedanta, we have cases, and there's always the possibility of saying, I have understood it. Or even, I have realized, I am enlightened, I know I am Brahman. But I really, really get annoyed if my coffee has too much sugar or too little sugar, or if the other car cuts me off on the freeway. It's really annoying, even if I'm Brahman. I'm one annoyed, mighty annoyed Brahman. I've actually seen this. One of our great, Swamis, a very, very wonderful teacher of non-duality, he's since passed. He was really very well versed in non-dual Vedanta and a very good, excellent teacher. But he had a hot temper. He would fly into a rage. So somebody asked him, Swami, you keep saying you are the ever peaceful ocean of Brahman, the calm ocean of limitless ocean of Brahman. Why do you get so angry? And Swami said, oh, that's just in the mind. I am the witness. Now that is not very convincing. But it is an actual problem in Advaita Vedanta, because technically he is right. So whatever happens at the level of the body is at the body. Whatever happens at the level of the mind is in the mind. And I am the ever blissful consciousness. But the problem is, as one sadhu said in the Himalayas, in Hindi, I'll tell you in Hindi and translate, he said, Rota hua jnani kisko pasand hai? Who likes a grumbling enlightened person? One of the first conditions, if you think you are enlightened, you have given up the right to grumble. You must be okay with, fine with anything that life throws at you. Anything. Physical level, mental level, relationship level, world level, you should be fine with anything that life throws at you. So don't be quick to claim enlightened status, because then you stand to lose a lot, the right to grumble and complain. And so, Rota wa jnani kisko pasand? Who's inspired by an enlightened person who's, Rota literally means weeping or crying or grumbling or complaining. Whining. Whining is the right word, correct. Who likes an enlightened person who's whining all the time? Why would this happen? Why would this happen? Let's go a little deeper into it. There is a book which discusses this. There's a book called Jivan Mukti Viveka by Vidyaranya Swami. Vidyaranya Swami was a great master of Advaita Vedanta who lived about 700 years ago in the south of India, in Vijayanagar kingdom. That book, he's more well known for his masterpiece Panchadashi, which was translated by, in fact, Swami Swanandaji. In Jivan Mukti Viveka, he says, the goal of Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta, is Jivan Mukti, enlightened while living. You are free while living. So that's the direct translation of Jivan Mukti. Now, this Jivan Mukti has three components. One component is called Tattva Jnana, knowledge of reality. The second component is called Vasanakshaya, eradication of desires, of deep-seated desires. Third component is called Manonasha. Literally it means destruction of the mind, but basically it means samadhi, deep concentration and deep absorption. So perfect meditation, perfect purity of mind, and enlightenment, knowledge of the reality. What reality? I am Brahman, that knowledge. These three together constitute Jivan Mukti, the goal of Advaita Vedanta. Now, these three are expected to arise simultaneously in the enlightened one, in the normal course of events. And here lies the fine print, the footnote to that there are exceptions, and many exceptions. It is possible to have one of these without the other two, and therein lies the trouble. It says, those in the normal course of events, if you are a spiritual seeker and you work really hard at this, purify the mind, meditate regularly, focus the mind, pure mind, focused mind, come to Vedantic teachings, you'll be enlightened. And that's done. You are free while living. However, and Vidyaranya Swami makes this point there might be cases, there are cases of people having a spiritual breakthrough and actually seeing what Vedanta is saying, and in a sense, yes, enlightened also. They realize that I am Brahman. They realize that I am not the body-mind. I am the witness of this body-mind. I am free from this body-mind. This body-mind in its entire world is an appearance, and I am I means not the ego, the underlying reality. Even the ego is not me. The ego is also a function of the mind. So this insight can come. It's not impossible. However, if the other two have not been accomplished to a very high level, then what will happen is, Vidyaranya Swami says, this person is a jnani, is a person who knows, is an enlightened person. However, is not a Jivan Mukta. He is not free while living. Why not? If the capacity to become absorbed in Brahman is not developed, if the mind has not been purified of worldliness completely. Remember, we are not talking about the ordinary person. We are not even talking at our levels. We are talking about people who are very advanced, very far along the path. We'll come further down the mountainside and come to base camp soon. But first, let's talk about the advanced stuff. Such a person, already pretty far along, but then what will happen is, if they are not fully prepared on the other two, purification of mind and the absorption in Brahman, samadhi and chitta shuddhi, then what will happen is, such persons will still be subject to being buffeted in the world, but the storms of the world might suddenly have reactions to the world, positive, negative, whatever it is. Of course, their reactions will be much more attenuated, much finer than ours, but still, it's possible. What should they do? What is the recommendation? It's very important. Why? Because I see it more and more. There are actually people, I have met such people who have had these breakthroughs, and yet they are in trouble. And they create trouble. They teach, they go on a book tour immediately. I'm enlightened, that's it, done. And book tour and teaching circuit, lecture circuit, and they can do it because they have actually seen there's a great power there. And they can uplift, inspire, move people. But also they can slip and fall. So this happens more than you would think it does. There are people. Now, it was well known in India for thousands of years that such a thing can occur. And they knew the solution for that also. So if you see that book, Vidyaranya Swami's book, and the Vidyaranya Swami's book is just the latest, 700 years ago, the latest edition. It's based on a much more ancient text, the Yoga Vashishta. So it's all drawn from there. So there he says that it can happen. And what such a person should do is do spiritual practice even more intensely. What spiritual practice? Exactly the same spiritual practice that he had been doing earlier. But now there's a difference. The difference is this. Earlier, you were doing karma yoga and bhakti and meditation and studying Vedanta in search. You're searching for that reality. You're searching for enlightenment, searching for Brahman, whatever it is. But now this person has already found it. He's already made a breakthrough. This person now does spiritual practices to stabilize, to become centered, to assimilate this truth and manifest it in life. So that person, but the teaching, the recommendation is that person should do more intense spiritual practice. I remember a sadhu in Haridwar saying exactly more or less the same thing, but using a very nice example. This monk, who I believe was an enlightened monk, one of his disciples, a householder disciple, had come and was saying that he had a kidney transplant, and he was explaining. So this monk did not know much about modern technology, and so this gentleman was explaining what happens in a kidney transplant. He said, I've done this kidney transplant and now I've got so many restrictions. And the monk asked, why do you have so many restrictions now that you have got the new organ? And he said, oh, Swami, the doctor told me that if I do not follow these restrictions, the body will not accept this new organ as a part of itself. And I will not get the benefits from the new organ. And ultimately, it will reject the organ and the organ will die. So I have to follow these restrictions. The Swami became very excited. He said to the assembled monks, look, this is exactly it. Once you have this knowledge, this breakthrough, he was talking about a very high level of breakthrough, that insight, then you must protect it by these practices. Otherwise, what will happen is that this knowledge that you have gained, it will not be accepted, assimilated into your system. And you will not get the benefit from it. And you may tend to lose it. A true breakthrough, I'll make a distinction here. A true breakthrough, you will never lose it. Vidyaranya Swami makes a point here. All right, suppose I really feel I have made the breakthrough, I am enlightened, but I do not have the other to the level of excellence required, so I am not a Jivan Mukta, freed while living. But is there no use to that enlightenment then? And Vidyaranya Swami says, yes, there is use. If you get that breakthrough, if you have got tattva jnana, the enlightenment about reality, the benefit of that is, this is your last life. You will get moksha at the point of death. When this body falls away, you will be liberated and set free forever. But in this life, if you want to get the joy of being free in this life, what was promised, see the original, what was the goal when you set out on spiritual path? The goal was overcoming suffering and attainment of bliss. So you have not attained the goal yet, right? And now in this life, one must be able to claim honestly that I am above all suffering and I am completely fulfilled. If I don't feel that, then it's still work in progress. So one can't claim that it's done. Atyantika dukkha nivritti paramananda prapti. The complete cessation of sorrow and attainment of bliss. If that has not happened. However, it's not useless. This person will, at the end of their lives, this will be the end, because they have realized that they are Brahman. This life they may go through ups and downs, but it's done. At the end of their lives, they are set free. I mean, I've seen one interesting thing about Sri Ramakrishna's disciples. After Sri Ramakrishna passed, you will notice a group of the 16 monks, those who became monks later on, plus some of the householder disciples, like M, the writer of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Ramchandra Datta, you will see Nag Mahashaya, all of them, and of course Vivekananda, Brahmananda, Shivananda, all of them, they plunged into intense spiritual practice. Intense spiritual practice, and lifelong, for several years. Some people asked in Swami Brahmananda, Swami Shivananda, the same question, and answer is also same. They asked him, what are you doing? Because Sri Ramakrishna has given you everything. Has given you God realization. So why are you doing such intense practices? And they said, the way they put it, both of them gave the same answer. What he gave us, we are trying to make it our own. Now notice, there was another group of disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, mostly the other householder disciples, except M, Nag Mahashaya and a few others. There was a whole group who went back to their old lives, their jobs, their families, and their businesses, and so on and so forth. And they are, of course, very spiritual people. They had all the blessings of Sri Ramakrishna and certain spiritual experiences. Notice the difference between their lives and lives in the first category. The lives of the second category, they went through many ups and downs in life. many shocks and tribulations in life, a lot of suffering also. But all throughout they were very spiritual people. And this other group, they also had problems in life, but they were able to rise above it by the sheer power of their of spirituality. So it's just my analysis. I'm just sharing this with you. Even more simply, the Holy Mother says, Ma Sharada, she said to a disciple that after initiation, the disciple asked her, Mother, if I don't repeat the mantra, then what? The mother said, don't worry, my child, it's done for you. At the time of your death, Sri Ramakrishna will come for you and will take you. This is assured because you have taken mantra diksha from me. But, then she added, but if you want joy in this life, you have to practice. Now, do you see how it matches with the old philosophical analysis 700 years ago, Vidyaranya Swami? If you want to be Jivan Mukta, free in this life, you must complete the other two. The ability to remain. See, I have realized I am Brahman, but if the mind does not have the ability to become plunged and centered in that, the mind is continuously pulled out into the world, then the benefits are not really flowing. If the mind has not been purged completely clean of worldly pulls and pressures, then I'm continuously diverted away from this realization. So these problems will be there. That's why the knowing is being, it's a good slogan, but not really. There is still a problem there. Knowing has to be still converted into being a Jivan Mukta, and for that, spiritual practice is necessary even at the most advanced level of Advaita Vedanta. You've got it. Swami Vivekananda puts it in this way. He has a short note on the 4 yogas, which he prepared for an American disciple. And very wonderful insights on each yoga, just in a compass of a couple of paragraphs. And about Jnana Yoga, non-dual Vedanta, he says at the very end, that is the direct path and so on. Not direct path. In fact, he says all the 4 yogas are indirect paths to enlightenment. There's no direct path. They are all things that you can do, but then enlightenment has to come from the other side. All right. But his point is very interesting. He says about non-dual Vedanta, the path of knowledge. He says that in this way, in this path, many come to an understanding, few realize. So, from a Swami Vivekananda's perspective, unless you are able to manifest the divinity already within, he would not count you as an enlightened person or a realized person. Just knowing it, no matter how deeply, how powerful the breakthrough, that's still not enough. It must be able to manifest it in life. All right. All of this, by the way, doesn't refer to the majority of spiritual seekers. This is a small elite minority. It's the problem of the elite, problem of the haves. But what about the rest of us? The problem of knowing versus being becomes more sharp when you come further down the mountainside. Jonathan Haidt, I mentioned his. So what answer does he provide? He says, see, the problem is like this. He gives the example of an elephant with a mahout on top. And the mahout guides the elephant. And he says that the mahout knows where he wants to go. And he guides the elephant there. The problem is, if the elephant doesn't want to go there, the mahout cannot force the elephant to go there because they ride around the elephant. The elephant is much stronger. So the elephant has to obey, or if the elephant doesn't obey, you don't have too many options there. Now, we are like that. The intellect is like the mahout, and the mind and the heart and the body, it's like the elephant. The emotions and memories and personalities and the desires and just the physicality of the body, that's the elephant. The intellect is like you riding it's the intellect which listens to talks, comes to Vedanta classes and is convinced that I am Brahman, and it's the intellect which knows. But to be, knowing and being, Being involves the whole being, not just the intellect, not just the rider of the elephant. It involves the elephant also. It involves the whole being. How it works is this way. So the intellect gets convinced. You see a TED talk, read a book, a self-help book, you get convinced. Attend a Vedanta class. This is great. I am Brahman. Meditation is great. I shall get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and meditate. And then next morning when you get up, the alarm rings, 6 o'clock, I'm going to meditate. I'm convinced, I'm sold. The body says, no. You didn't consult me. It's cold and I feel tired. I haven't had enough sleep. I'm going to sleep. You can go and meditate if you like. The elephant may not agree. The elephant doesn't want to go this way. The elephant wants to eat bananas and puts its trunk into the shop of a fruit seller and snatches the bananas from there. The mouth can't stop it. Now, what's the answer? So the intellect, the mouth, the intellect responds to reason and knowledge. What does the elephant respond to? That's the question. What does the elephant respond to? Training. The elephant responds to training. After all, how does the mouth make the elephant obey? Through training. And what is the essence of training? Repetition. Practice. Repetition. So this is where we come down to the brass tacks. How do I convert knowing into being in our daily spiritual life? I will just make a few points here and then stop. A couple of days back, I was in Sacramento, and I was rereading Swami Ashokananda. Here it is all Swami Prabhavanandaji, Swami P. You feel his presence here in everything. I've never seen him, but you can see this place is a reflection of him. But if you go to San Francisco and Berkeley and Sacramento, it's Swami Ashokananda. You can see his presence there. One of the beautiful essays based on his talks is called The Razor's Edge. It's a reference, of course, to the Katha Upanishad, Razor's Edge, and also Somerset Maugham's novel of the same title, Razor's Edge. But the point he's making in that talk is why is spiritual life so difficult? Why bridging knowing and being is so difficult? And he does something amazing. I never noticed it earlier. So it's wonderful to read these things and reread it after a gap of 10, 15, 20 years. What he does there is, he talks about yoga, samadhi, meditation. So the typical complaint in spiritual life is, meditation is difficult, Swami, my mind is restless, I can't meditate. So he says, why is it difficult to meditate, he says. So he starts, normally when we read meditation, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the 8-limbed yoga, we start with the initial moral practices, yama and niyama, then sitting, asana, then breathing, pranayama, then pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, and then dharana, focus, and dhyana, meditation, and then samadhi. But what he does in that talk, in that essay, he starts at the top. Why is meditation so difficult? Samadhi and dhyana, meditation so difficult? It's because our minds flicker continuously. It's because of lack of focus. Our minds are continuously flickering, so the absorption becomes difficult. What does mind flickering mean? Mind flickering means the mind has continuous series of what are called vrittis, thoughts. So one after another, thoughts, perceptions, ideas, and each thing is, if it is about a different thing. You're listening to my talk, then the baby comes in, and then the baby rushes out, then you're back to my thought. So half a dozen thoughts have come one after another, and each one is about a different thing. So that's the flickering mind. That's why absorption becomes difficult. Why does the mind flicker? Why does the mind flicker? Why is it so difficult to focus? Because we are pouring a lot of inputs into the mind. See, why did the mind flicker now? Because there was sound, some other sensory input. So there is inadequate withdrawal of the senses from the world, therefore the mind flickers. Because the mind flickers, therefore meditation is difficult. Do you see? Meditation, dhyana, is difficult because dharana has not been accomplished. Dharana is focus. Focus is lacking, therefore meditation is impossible. Why is focus lacking? Because the withdrawal from the world is inadequate. Hearing, seeing, or from inside, memories, thoughts of the past, projections about the future, they keep bubbling up. So it keeps the mind shaky. Lack of focus. But why are all these sensory inputs they're coming in, and why is it so difficult to withdraw from the world? Go further, one step back. Pranayama. This is why I wanted to share. This is the difference between, this uniqueness of listening to, living with, and reading an enlightened person. I just saw that by reading. If you read books on yoga, if you read even the ancient Sanskrit commentaries on yoga, pranayama is breathing or control of the prana within this body. And that's all they will talk about. But here's the distinction. If you read the writing of an enlightened person, or at least an advanced spiritual seeker, what Ashokanji writes there you will not find anywhere else. What he says is, breathing, control of the prana, that is at a superficial level. Breathing, control of the breathing. It's control of the prana which is meant. Even control of the prana, he connects it to certain things. For example, he says, why the senses are not under our control is because we have a biological energy flowing through this body, life force flowing through this body. Every activity of the body, every activity of the mind, of the senses, of emotions, ideas, memory, behind it all is a vibration of prana. It is this energy which makes all this activity possible. So prana is very important. And this prana gives us all these experiences. And that's great. But here's the problem. If I do not have control over prana, it will keep on giving me these experiences even when I don't want it. A sound comes. I don't want to hear it. But I have no control of the prana. The prana immediately swings into action, engages the ears, gets in an input and supplies it to the mind, throws the mind off balance of focus, and then my meditation is disturbed. You see how quickly? It happens in an instant. But why should it be so? It's my prana. Why don't I have control over it? You see where we have come. Meditation is impossible because focus, dharana has not been accomplished. Dharana is impossible because pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses not accomplished. Withdrawal of the senses not accomplished. Why? Because pranayama, my prana is not under control. It keeps activating the senses here, left and right, without any choice. I have no choice. Somebody says a nasty word to me, I have no choice. Swami Vivekananda says, slaves we are. Slave to a good word, slave to a nasty word. Both throw our minds into turmoil. One is good word, praise, big, smiley, delight. A nasty word, depression. Why? At every level you can answer it. At the level of prana is, we have no control over the prana. It immediately swings into its accustomed channels of action and it delivers the result to us. How do I get control? Here. If you read a book on pranayama, go to a yoga teacher, they will teach you. Breathe in, hold the prana, and then Swami Ashokanji says there, it's all superficial. Much deeper level is this whole practice of steadiness in life. Every reaction, why do I become upset? Why do my emotions fluctuate so much? I am feeding prana into it. No, I will withdraw the prana. I will not allow that to happen. That's not a good thing. It's my equipment acting up against me. I must bring it under control. He says his words there, he says, sometimes I think people in the world have more of this steadiness than those who have left the world for spiritual practice. He says, people in the world, they have to put, even if the body is shaking with fever, with the flu, they have to put on your suit and go out and put in 8 hours of work because you have to hold on to a job and take care of your family. And here we are, where every little problem, every little, pinprick from the world throws me into a turmoil. Why? This is some of that steadiness which a person needs to hold on to a job. Some of that steadiness which a person needs to raise a family. It's an investment of 15, 20 years to raise kids. Some of that steadiness we must bring into our spiritual life also. And he says, that is pranayama. Tell me, where will you get this insight? Where will you get this insight? No commentary, no ancient Sanskrit commentary will supply you with this subtle insight. Bring this prana under control. And this prana will not come under control unless there is physical steadiness. He says, go back to asana. Physical steadiness. If you continuously shake and disturb the body, you're continuously in motion, or working, or just moving around, that will keep throwing the prana off balance. You see how he has worked his way down from meditation, samadhi and meditation, to focus, dharana. From dharana down to pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses. From pratyahara down to pranayama, control and refinement and bringing the prana under control. From there to steadiness of the body. And then he goes down to yama and niyama. This is bridging knowing and being. Jonathan Haidt's insight that practice is what brings the body under control, the elephant under control. Similarly, regular, repeated practice, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, and a deeper sense. This sense I got by rereading The Razor's Edge by Ashokanandji. So these are not mechanical, physical practices. They are very deep. Who would have thought pranayama means being a steady person in life? That brings prana under control. There Ashokanandji says, wild fluctuations of emotion, rage, jealousy, deep chronic depression, these are all connected. They may have a physical basis, but also they can also be very deeply connected to worldliness. Somewhere we are deeply invested in the world. We are not genuinely spiritual seekers. You must learn to let go and decide, make up your mind. I am a mumukshu, a seeker after liberation. That is my goal. Whether I'm a householder or in a monk, in the monastery, wherever I am, my goal is enlightenment. When internally I make that shift, I don't have to tell anybody, I don't have to make any major dramatic change in my life. When I internally make that shift, everything else begins to become much easier. If I don't internally make that shift, everywhere I'll keep getting stuck. All right. So let me do a peace chant, and then we'll see if I have time for one or two questions. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. I pray to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swamiji, and all our lineage of teachers, at least in our order, we have had a host of enlightened teachers in our order. And there's a blessing on the order of our monks that this order will never lack enlightened beings. So I pray to them, let them bless us, and let our knowing also be being in our lives. Maharaj, is there time for one or two questions, or we can wrap it up? It's 8:35. 5 minutes or 10 minutes? 5 minutes. Okay.
20 minutes.
All right. Let's have. There's a question there.
Thank you, Swamiji. My name is Kiran. My question is, if we're already Brahman, whether we realize it or not, then what if I take this attitude that I believe that, now I'm not going to strive for anything, because I just don't need to. I just have this faith, and what's wrong with that?
What's wrong is it will just increase our suffering. You'll see very soon it doesn't work. You can just try it. Yesterday I heard a very funny story about Swami Prabhudanandaji. Somebody asked a question, Swami, in my altar, why should I have the picture of Sri Ramakrishna, Why can't I put my own picture? I've never heard that one, so I was surprised to hear this. And the Swami's answer was even more remarkable. He said, try it. If you try doing that, you will see very soon it's not doable. You know what's the most difficult thing to do? Nothing. What happens is, why that is not at all recommended is, at our stage, when we are on the spiritual path, the mind has so much conditioning, desires, so stuffed. If I let go of any kind of structure of a higher goal or purpose, what will just happen is I'll sink back to that level. That level of my own likes and dislikes, my own past conditioning, that will start guiding me. There's no vacuum. If I let go, what will happen is those things will bubble up from my past conditioning, and that will take over my life. I'll probably end up worse than when I started spiritual life. Yeah. Believing that I am Brahman, affirming that I am Brahman, it might be good. It might be good as a practice, but it's still not enlightenment, because I don't know yet. Maybe I believe it, maybe I'm doing some kind of positive self-affirmation, but it won't work. Theoretical knowledge is not sufficient to cut out a vividly experienced delusion. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for both your lectures.
If you like, you can take up the mask also while asking a question.
Thank you so much. My name is Caden, and I was wondering, since we're all kind of living the householder's path here, and we're really involved in life just on an everyday basis, having to go to work, having to deal with relationships, and not all of us can renounce into the Himalayas or whatnot. When concerning any negative thoughts that may come up, are you supposed to kind of have a compassion for those negative feelings that come up, or are you trying to resist them and kind of go look past all the feelings that you may have? I'm not sure if the question is...
No, it's clear. Thank you for that. First of all, this path, the beauty of the non-dual path is, because it's non-dual, it's for everybody. Nobody's left out. Right? It's one reality. So it's not that you have to be a monk or a nun, or it's not that you even have to be a Hindu or convert into something. You are a believer. Only if you're a believer, then Brahman is going to come and save you. And nothing of that sort. Whether you believe or you do not believe, whether you, even if you do not accept this philosophy, the philosophy, this teaching says, it insists that you are Brahman. This monk I met in the Himalayas, he would say in Hindi, Tum mano ya na mano, tum jano ya na jano, tum hi Ram. Whether you accept it or you do not accept it, whether you know it or you don't know it, knowing and being, whether you know it or you don't know it, but you are Rama. You are that, you are one with God, or you are God. All right. Now, how do I deal? So this is for me. Anybody can practice it. If Krishna teaches it to Arjuna, I think that's the reason he taught it to Arjuna in the battlefield. That's the worst kind of human endeavor one can have, a war. In the midst of that, if you can practice spirituality, then we can all be spiritual. Our lives are not as complicated as being in the midst of a war. Now, a specific question is dealing with all sorts of negative thoughts which come up. Feelings, thoughts, reactions. And that's true of everybody. If you're a monk in a monastery or you're a person out there in the world, in samsara, it's for everybody. Negative thoughts, this battle goes on. There are multiple ways of dealing with it. One way is, no, stop it, cut it off, resist it, let it go. The second way, I think a better, wiser way, is replace it with something positive. One great secret to be learned about the mind is it can entertain or hold on to only one vritti at a time, one thing at a time. So if it's holding on to something negative, if I replace it with something positive, hate, I replace it with love. Anger, I replace it with peace. greed, I replace it with contentment. Replace it means just make an effort, just one effort, that let me think of satisfaction now, not greed. Now, because the mind can hold on to only one thing at a time, the mind has no choice. If you give it, hold on to this one, then it has to let go of the other one. But he says, that doesn't work, Swami, it will come back again. Yes, then you keep taking the decision from moment to moment. When do you decide to replace a negative thought with a positive thought? When? All the time. Make a decision now, the next moment make another decision, and the next moment you make another decision. Every moment is an opportunity. The Upanishad says, Shreya and Preya, the desirable and the beneficial, they come to you at every moment. And you have the option of exercising your freedom of choice at every moment. If you fail once, twice, 10 times, no problem. The 11th time is again open to you. So this is the second way of dealing with negativity. So replace it with a positive thought. There's a third way, which is to intensify the negativities. Hatred, desire, passion, greed, intensify it. Sri Ramakrishna says, turn it towards God. These are powerful energies. Why will you waste them? Why will you want to cut it off or even replace them? Intensify it, but direct it to God. If you want to be angry with God. Why haven't I become enlightened yet? Why is my knowing not being yet? I want to be greedy for God. Somebody called Sri Ramakrishna, he was a glutton for God. So be greedy for God, and so on. So these are the ways. If you know Buddhism, you notice I just gave you the 3 principles: the Theravada principle, the Mahayana principle, and the Tantric way, the Vajrayana principle. Theravada principle is a very monastic principle. No negativities. Lust, greed, anger, no. Stop. Cut it off. Stay away from all of that. That's the monastic way. Cut it off. The Mahayana path, where at one time large numbers of lay people also became Buddhist, and so you have to have, you can't cut it off. You can't physically stay away from the world. You have to have money and relationships and families and hold jobs and, yes, even fight wars. Then what do? You can't cut it off. So you have to replace it with something positive. Convert it into the positive. That's the Mahayana path. And then the third path was the Vajrayana Tantric path, and we find in Tibetan Buddhism. Even the negativities can be channeled into towards your goal. Every negative means worldly, earthly emotions which tie us to samsara. All of them the same ones can free us. And Sri Ramakrishna gives his seal of approval on that method also. He says, turn it towards God. Yes, that's the last one. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Swamiji, my name is Hitesh. And you talked about these 3 ways to redirect your energy, or some of the ways here just in the last few minutes. How do we know which one is probably better suited for us, or can you share a few more ideas in terms of some of the tactical ways to figure out if we can, at a path in our life, if we feel like, can we just rip the Band-Aid off or take a slow, gradual way towards
I
something?
cannot give details. That depends on your, every person is different. Every spiritual seeker is different. You have to exercise some independent judgment there. Is this something I can completely stay away from? Good, then do it. But I can't stay away from it. I'm in the midst of I have a family, I have a job, and I have the boss to confront when I go to the office tomorrow. Then what do? Then you have to take the second one, turn the negativity into positivity. The third path is very powerful, but also there are dangers there. If you intensify negativities, very good. There always has been this danger in the tantric path that it flies out of control. All right then. No, just.
Anyone more?
Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Yes. You have the mic, literally.
Yes. Oftentimes we hear, and for good reason, that in Vedanta it says
this is not real, this is not, the real you is the Brahman. But this is for the vast majority. I'm not talking about people who are who are monks or realized. It's a kind of negative thing because we are already stuck with, the pleasures of life and this, that. So when you say these are all false, it's not an incentive. Rather than if we say this is there, this chair is here, this building is here, but there's something more beautiful, more higher than what I see here. So that's rather than negation, like denial.
Sure.
So
you have asked me my favorite question, Jagat Mithyatva, the falsity of the world. If there's one thing that Advaitins, non-dualists are more interested in than Brahman also, it's the falsity of the world. They're out to prove that the world is false. But there's a very good reason for that. When you say that, please affirm that this world is real, it's all there. The problems of the world, the pleasures of the world, the terrors and the temptations are all there, they're all real. And there's something deeper and much better. Yes, that's a good way of going about it. If that is helpful, please do that. But what is the advantage of saying that the world is false? Look, neither the non-dualist nor the dualist, no one will deny that you are experiencing the world. But what the non-dualist does is, just because you are experiencing it, does it mean it's real? Because you often experience things which are not real. You watch movies. You read fiction. You have dreams at night. And we all know, we experience them. You did see a movie, but it was a movie. You did read a work of fiction, but it was fiction. You did have a dream. You can't deny that, but it was a dream. So, just because we experience something does not mean it's real. It could be unreal. Okay. Now, what is the advantage? What's the advantage of having in spiritual life if the world is unreal? Two advantages. One, preliminary, and the second one, deeper. I'm sorry I'm taking more time here because it's your fault. You asked my favorite question. I'll make it brief. You have to think about this. The first, the preliminary advantage is it creates dispassion about the world. So if the world is not real, it's like a movie, then you need not be so disturbed by the world nor so attracted by it. Ultimately it's all right. What has to be done? Remember, this body-mind is also part of the world. So the body-mind will keep on playing its role in the world. But it's all right. It's not important. Because it's an appearance part of it. It's like a fiction compared to the reality which is your own self, which is Brahman. So it creates dispassion, vairagya for the world if it is false. If it's real, you have to take it seriously. If it's not real, you don't have to take it seriously. So, Swami, what are you saying? Should we take the world seriously or not? Don't. I said, Swami, what are you saying? You are a monk, you may not take the world seriously, but I have a family and I have a job and responsibilities. Even more reason for you not to take the world seriously. That's a great protection. It's a great protection against suffering in the world if you don't take it too seriously. What will happen? The work has to be done. Don't worry, it will be done. The family will take care of itself and job also will take care of itself. And you will also do whatever has to be done. You can't stop it, even if you think it's not real. It will go on. Okay, and it will go on better. So vairagya, dispassion, that's the preliminary advantage. But here is the deeper advantage. Notice what you said. This world is there, but there is something deeper, higher, greater, God. And so why not say it like that? The advantage of saying world is false, and the deeper advantage is you are directly pointing to that higher reality. How? If I say it's not a snake, it's a rope. The snake is false, it's actually a rope. You know the classical example used in Advaita Vedanta? It's not a snake, it's a rope. Now let me ask you, where is the snake you are seeing? There. Where is the rope which it is really supposed to be? There. Why there? Because if the snake is false, then it's actually a rope. That thing which you thought was a snake is actually a rope right there. But if the snake is real and you're saying there is some other thing called a rope, that rope could be somewhere else. That's not it. So falsity of the world means it's something else. You are seeing the reality as something else. You are seeing Brahman as the world. World is false means Brahman is real. That thing which you said is deeper, more beautiful, greater. If I ask you the question, where is it? The dualist has only one option. Someplace else. Heaven. What is it? Not this, because this is real. Some other reality. Not me, because this is real. I am a body, mind, I am a little creature. I am Sarvapriyananda. So what's God? There, somewhere else, somebody or something else. Something else, somewhere else, and some other time. This is real samsara now. Then this cannot be heaven. Heaven is some other time later on. This is real samsara here. Then heaven can't be here. It must be there. And this is world and I am a human being. So this can't be God. God must be something else. But if this thing is an appearance, what is it an appearance of? It's an appearance of Brahman. Where is Brahman? Here. When is Brahman? Now. What is Brahman? You. This is the beauty of saying that the world is false. This whole thing depends on whether you take the world to be an appearance or reality. Sri Ramakrishna has the last word. He says, if I thought that the world was real, I would have paved the streets of Kamarpukur, his village. I would have paved the streets of Kamarpukur with gold. If I thought it was real, I would have taken it that seriously. I don't. It's an appearance of something else. That something else is real. God is real and right here. So, all right, Swami, but you said that it could be false. But it could be real also, right? If you listen carefully to what I said earlier, just because you are experiencing it, does it mean it's real? And you said, Swami, that it could be false also. Good. But I noticed you said it could be false. But you didn't prove that it's false. Can you prove that it's false? It's a topic for another day, the falsity of the world. But I'll just give an example of what I mean. A Swami, I remember in the temple in India, in our monastery, standing on the steps of the temple, he said, these non-dualists, they keep saying, world is false, world is false. What nonsense. Here, can't you see? Here is the temple, here is the river Ganga, here is the sky and the sun. You can't see it? I see it. How can I say it's false? Now, I didn't say anything to him. He was angry enough as it is. But what would a non-dualist say to that? Why would you say it's false? As he would say, notice your language, Swami. You're saying, I see it. Translate that. The world is real because I see it. I see the world is equivalent to the world is appearing in awareness, in consciousness. Appearance in consciousness is the very definition of falsity. Just like your dream. What is the difference between a dream, the things which appeared in your mind when you were dreaming, and this thing which is appearing right now in your awareness? What's the difference? Tell me. No difference. Don't be so fast. Swami Nikhilanand in his Upanishads, translation of Upanishads, in an appendix, he gives 10 differences between waking and dreaming. 10 differences, the commonly held differences. Then he carefully erases each one, till you are left with a creepy feeling, like you are, is this a dream? Are you in the Matrix? Okay, on that curious note, let's end. All right.
Does Brahman have a sense of I?
It does. You have a sense of I. You are Brahman. A sense of I, that I is the ego. Brahman itself does not have. The ego arises when the mind starts functioning. And the mind itself is an appearance in Brahman.
But when I'm thinking, like, each and every person has a sense of I. Like, every animal has a sense of I. So, how, I'm trying to figure out, like, when everything is gone, what happens to the I?
You're thinking, so this is another, this is a problem when people become interested in this and it can go on and on. All right, just one line answer and then we'll end. So we feel that, all this Brahman talk, it means finally there'll be only Brahman, and which basically means all this is false, all this will go away after I become enlightened. No, it won't. If you realize that the necklace is gold, does the necklace disappear into a shapeless puddle of gold? No. The necklace remains a necklace, the bracelet remains a bracelet, the ring remains a ring. You just know that it's gold. Right? So when you realize this is all Brahman, what will happen? Nothing. Exactly like this. I can't resist this. Wittgenstein, the great, I love Wittgenstein. One day he comes out of his office. He was teaching in Cambridge, a philosophy professor. And this lady who has written this reminiscence, she was his assistant or something, she's with him. And Wittgenstein suddenly stops and looks at the sun in the sky. And he says, why did ancient people, why did they think that the sun went around the world instead of the other way around? The world goes around the sun, earth goes around the sun, but the ancient people, they thought that the sun is going around, it's rising in the east and setting in the west. And this lady said, I told him, Professor, that's what it looks like. It looks like the sun is rising in the east and setting in the west. And then Wittgenstein said, what would it look like if that were not the case? Suppose if the earth goes around the sun, what would it look like? If the earth is rotating, sunrise and sunset are because of the rotation of the earth. If the earth is rotating, not the sun is rising in the east and setting in the west, earth is rotating, what would it look like? Exactly like this. If the world is real, no Vedanta, non-dualism, what will it look like? Like this. If Brahman is the only reality and is appearing as this universe, what would it look like? Like this. After you become enlightened, what will it look like? Like this. Including the sense of I also. It'll come, it'll still be there. So all that's very interesting, but that's why Vedanta Society is there. You need classes and classes and classes just to explain, to explore these things. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all. Oh, you see, come here.
I'm sort of trapped.
I will just say a few words. So, we are happy, undoubtedly we are happy that Swami came here and gave us such, what you call, a feast, big feast. Sometimes the mind should be saturated with those things. So